New patterns in migration have been one of the themes that we've talked a lot about in this COVID era. And one of those themes specifically has been people moving out of California for various reasons, including taxes. Andrew Serwer wrote about this phenomenon in his column this week. And Andy, our editor-in-chief here at Yahoo Finance, is with us now. And Andy, you know, as you point out, it's not necessarily a new narrative, but it's been given a little more juice by what's been going on currently. And you hear a lot of anecdotes about, you know, various billionaires, millionaires, Silicon Valley people moving out. But what's the reality behind the headlines that we see?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky stuff, Julie, because, of course, you know, we've heard about Elon Musk and Larry Ellison and Hewlett-Packard Enterprises all leaving the Bay Area in particular. But the question is just how significant is this and how different really is this from previous instances where high-profile executives and companies have left California? And to be quite honest, the jury is still out. I mean, we talked to a professor at Cal Berkeley, and she said there's no hard data. And sure, there's a lot of high-profile people leaving, but you know, at the same time, companies like Facebook, Apple, Google, et cetera, are bigger than ever. And in fact, that's part of the reason why people are saying they're leaving Silicon Valley, is because those companies have been crowding out the other companies in terms of real estate prices and in terms of trying to get talent. So there's always been these instances of people being unhappy with California. I mean, you go back decades before Bob Metcalf and Jim Clark, and in the 90s and before that as well. But there's no question that the problems now are more acute.
Well, I guess though, Andy, and you referenced a Joan Didion essay from almost 70 years ago, kind of on this same topic, and it's actually kind of feels analogous to what people talk about here in New York City, where New York City is always on the verge of dying some kind of death and some version of that. And I do wonder how you kind of tease out the tale as old as time element of this versus what is specifically challenging right now. I mean, is it the budget hole that really could be presented here that makes this maybe more different? The numbers now are obviously just way bigger than they've ever been because people have more wealth, there's more people, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's talk, Miles, about what is different in California this time. And I think you're right about New York, and it's the same sort of phenomenon. And taxes definitely are a big problem for wealthy people, or they consider them to be a big problem. Although I would point out that, you know, when someone's worth $100 billion to complain about taxes, you know, boo-hoo-hoo. But sure, and California is spending a ton of money on social services and the like, but they need to, because look at the homelessness problem in that state. It's a really dire situation right now. But what's different right now, of course, are things like the fires and things like that homelessness problem, which are really different right now. And then also, of course, COVID itself has shown that you can live anywhere and perform these jobs, especially if you're working on the computer all day. You don't need to be in Silicon Valley anymore at all. And the other point, I think, you guys, is that actually all these tools and cloud service platforms have actually accelerated the moves out of cities. So in a way, Silicon Valley is sort of obviating itself because, you know, it's not only AWS and Azure and Google Cloud, but it's also Zoom, Slack, Substack, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, we don't need to be there. And then, of course, places like Texas and Florida, the governors and mayors are doing a heck of a job in terms of recruiting people like Larry Ellison and Elon Musk. And the ears of those people are open, especially because they're sort of, well, they call themselves libertarians. I would say they're more like neocons. And there's what they call a lot of political correctness in California and the Bay Area, too, that they're resentful about.
Yeah, and on that last point, too, I mean, then Gavin Newsom's also in stark contrast to those other officials in other areas. And there's now that quest on the part of Chamath Palihapitiya and others to recall Newsom, right? I know this is a bit of a side point in your article, but still you wonder then the people who end up staying in California, what kind of leverage politically they're going to end up having, and then what effect that's going to have on California politics going forward.
Oh, yeah. And that's a huge part of the story, no doubt, as well. And that gets back to taxes, because there's proposals now on the table to not only raise that top marginal tax rate, which is already the highest in the country, 13.3%, to above 16% for income over $1 million, and a wealth tax, Julie, of 0.4% for assets over $30 million. And yeah, they're trying to recall Gavin Newsom, Chamath Palihapitiya, and others. Now, Newsom, for his part, through his spokesperson, Dee Myers, who you may recall from the Clinton administration, who's now his head of economic development or business there, has said those taxes are off the table. Gavin Newsom is not going to increase corporate taxes or pass or sign a wealth tax. And, someone pointed out to me, the governor of California is always has his eye on the White House. Now, maybe Kamala Harris has leapfrogged Gavin Newsom, but, it is a big national platform, being the governor of California. And the word is that he's not going to do this. And in fact, through Dee Myers, he said he's not going to do this. So here we go back and forth on the tax thing.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, Dee Myers definitely was a blast from the past in your column there. Thanks so much, Andy. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.